Oh, welcome again to Great Combos, where we always say whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. Woo! I can't even tell you, I'm so pumped about this episode. I'm Roger Caesar, I'm one of the co-hosts here, and that gentleman over there.
Yeah, I'm over here. Hi, Roger. I'm Alexander Matt. I'm the other co-host today. Roger, you are the strength guy. I'm the family guy. These are our titles for today. Roger, what are we doing today?
Man, let me tell you something. Can we just pull it back for a second?
Okay, sorry.
I want to say welcome to all of our loyal listeners. And if we have new ones who are joining us today, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us and we appreciate it. Today is going to be, well, it's going to be an emotionally high and low episode, but we're going to have a lot of fun. Listen, I was in California about 2 weeks ago. I was at the Mega Success Conference and I met a lot of people there. We had a lot of fun learning about the art of business and networking with so many people. And there were a lot of celebrities and individuals who were on stage talking about their experiences, talking about their businesses, talking about how to be successful. But there was one gentleman who was on that stage who absolutely blew my mind. And when he was finished with his story, Alex, it was as if everybody in that room unilaterally went out and made a phone call.
Mm.
It was something that was out of a movie to see how many people picked up their phones and made a phone call. And I don't want to give it away yet, but just hold on to that, everyone, and you'll understand why. And immediately I remember reaching out to Alex and saying, we need to get this gentleman on our show to share his story and to talk about the importance of what he has gone through and how he is making a difference in the world today.
Sometimes it can be as simple as sharing your story, and this is exactly what our guest does. Our guest is Mason Sawyer. Now, Mason in 2021 went through a horrific tragedy. He lost nearly all his family in a car accident. But now he shares his story, not only of the tragedy, but of the resilience and of love for his family. Mason has a podcast. It's the 1090 podcast. So we'll touch on that. But Roger, we wanted to share during season 4 some more difficult topics, some touchy topics, and I think this is one of them. How do you turn your pain into purpose? This is exactly what we're going to talk about with Mason Sawyer of the 1090 podcast. Please come on over, Mason. There you are.
What is up, guys?
Hello, Mason. Now,
that intro was pretty good, so I'm nervous now. I better say something good, man. Yeah,
Mason, why don't you first of all tell everyone where you are from? Where are you hailing from? Let's start with that.
Southern Utah, lovely place called St. George, and I played college basketball here. Me and Kortni, my wife, fell in love with it, and just kind of been here ever since. Warm weather, and yeah, man, we love it.
All right. Well, you just touched on Kortni, the love of your life. I believe you were high school sweethearts, I believe.
Roger, my senior year, we won the award most likely to marry your high school sweetheart, and it's my favorite award now that I have. Like, I got basketball awards and stuff, but that, like, yeah, we're the cutest high school couple and fell in love very early in life with a great woman and started a family with her. And yeah, she was the love of my life, like you said.
Mason, we don't need to go into a lot of details, but can you tell us the story of the tragedy briefly?
Yeah. Thanks for allowing me to talk about it. Talking about it has changed my life. And I know you guys run shorter episodes, so I'll try to make it as short as I can. But I loved basketball growing up and played college basketball. And after I played college basketball, I became a high school basketball coach at my old high school. Did that for a couple years, and then started doing basketball training on the side, just individual workout players, just to earn some extra money because high school teacher and coach don't make a lot of money. So I had to do what I could. And then it kind of turned into like my basketball trainings were growing, and I was actually making more money doing that than teaching. And then I got a phone call from St. George, Utah, a place called Nets on Fire, and they offered me my dream job, guys. They said, we want you to be a full-time basketball trainer and train players every day, and then help us organize and hold tryouts and put together AAU basketball teams and travel and coach, and we want you to be our guy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't think this was a real job. So I talked to Kortni about it, and she's like, yeah, like we have to do it. And Kortni was an amazing nurse at the time, so it was really easy for her to find a new nursing job. So we moved our family to St. George, and we both started our new careers. Kortni as a nurse, me as a basketball trainer. And then not long after that, family reunion like we do every summer. And I couldn't go this year because I just took this new job. Like I said, our first basketball tournament was on the same weekend as the family reunion. So I told my family, like, hey, we're not going to be able to go. And they were cool. I mean, they totally understood. Like, yeah, like no worries. We'll miss you. And then my wife, Kortni, that Thursday, she came to me and she's like, hey, I think I'm going to take the kids to the family reunion. You're just going to be coaching all weekend. I think they'll like it. We'll just come back Sunday. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like fun. And then I told her, like, you should ask my brother Race, because he also lives in St. George at the time. And you guys could drive together or follow each other just so it's more safe or convenient. And she's like, yeah, good idea. So my family, Kortni, my son Riggins, my son Blue, and my daughter Franki went to the family reunion with my brother Race and his youngest son Ryder. And traveling back that Sunday, they were coming home, and a big dust storm kicked up, and it blanketed the highway, and it caused a 22 car pileup, and eight people were killed, and 5 of those 8 people were my family. And I remember getting a phone call, and the guy said, there's been a car accident. Everyone's dead except one person. And I just remember falling to the ground, crying, screaming, very much in the body, like feeling it. And then also out of the body, I remember there was a moment where I was thinking to myself, like, what is that noise? Like, what's that loud, terrible noise? And realizing, oh, that's me. I'm making that noise. So I pick up the phone and just really hope I just heard one survivor being repeated in my head, and I'm just like, who do I want it to be? Who's it gonna be? Like, I don't know. And just being terrified, I put the phone back up to my ear, and they said the survivor's a 3-year-old. So I fell back to the ground, and that meant my wife, Kortni, from high school is gone. My son, Riggins, is gone. My daughter, Franki's gone. My brother, Race, is gone. My nephew, Ryder, is gone. And then our son, Blue, so our middle child, he had a big scrape on his head and a fractured hand, but he survived. I think everyone else was killed instantly. At least that's what I hope, that they didn't experience a lot of pain. They said I couldn't see my wife's body because it was so bad, but they said you could see her hand, which oddly was kind of comforting for me, because I thought that meant like maybe she went quickly and didn't even see it coming, and it was just gone, hopefully. But I spent one night in the hospital with my son, Blue, and then we left the next day. And that was, it's hard because that was when the world blew up or ended for me. And it's been hard adjusting in a world where everyone's talking about how the world's going to end and this and that. And for me, it's just,
For you, it was already over.
So it's hard to, it's just hard. It's been hard every day, and every day they die, but Blue surviving definitely kept me surviving. And that's the main reason why I kept going, and the main reason why I'm still here today talking to you guys.
Yeah, you've said that.
Yeah.
Blue has saved your life.
Yeah. I mean, I remember driving my friend was driving me to the hospital, and I just wasn't sure what condition he was going to be in, or if he was really alive. I didn't know what was going on. And I remember telling my friend, like, if Blue's not okay, then I'm going to take my own life. Like, I'm done. And I don't even remember what his reaction was, but Blue was okay. And then that kind of shoved me into this weird gray area of, like, I don't want to live. I just don't want to live. I want to die to be with my family, or I want to die so the pain will stop. But obviously I couldn't do that because of Blue. And so because of Blue, I didn't want to die. So I was in this very weird, didn't want to live, didn't want to die mindset, which just left me very paralyzed with a lot of pain. And then I spent the first little bit just trying to run from the pain and numb it with alcohol, drugs. Couldn't talk about them, couldn't look at pictures of them. Just couldn't deal with it at all. And then I finally started talking about it, and that shifted things for me in a big way.
Right.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm choking up, even though I've heard the story. It's still, I'm a father. You know, Alex has 3 daughters. I've got 2 daughters. And when I was saying in the beginning that immediately people ran out of the room, is because the first thing they did was they went and called their loved ones just to let them know that they love them, and how precious life is, and how quickly it could be taken away in that moment. And I can't even fathom how you were in that moment, knowing that you had lost everybody except for one. And they, at the time, probably didn't know yet with regards to your son. You now have said that he has been pretty much the reason, and I remember hearing you say that, the reason why you didn't go down that hole and choose to take your life and everything. What has he meant to you since?
Yeah, so it went from, okay, Mason, you can't kill yourself because of Blue, but I wasn't a good dad anymore. Like, I couldn't be present. I couldn't be in my own body. It just hurt so much. So even though I wasn't, even though I didn't kill myself, I just wasn't there still. It was just alcohol and drugs. Like, I was just, and think of Blue. Blue lost everything. And now he's stuck with a dad who's just not even in the present moment with him. And so Blue not only kept me from doing something terrible, but then he motivated me to, like, dude, you gotta get out of bed. You have to get out of bed. And we don't know why. And something terrible might happen again. But you gotta get out of bed for Blue. And so I did that. And then it was, okay, how long can we stay out of bed? And just such small battles and victories that I started to win and complete, like going to the grocery store. I remember the first time I went to the grocery store and made it back. I felt like I climbed Mount Everest. Like, why isn't Fox 13 News over at my house right now interviewing me? Like, I did it. And that's kind of how it was, just these first baby steps. And then, Blue has the rest of his life to go. And so then through therapy and realizing like, hey, life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it. So if I just mope and cry and poor me and drink myself to death, then that's why they died. That's why our family died, is so I could be an alcoholic and a bad dad. And that's terrible. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stories of that's happened, but we don't interview those people. And so I knew that if I wanted to make a difference in Blue's life, that I had an opportunity that if I handled this well, and I'm still not really sure what I mean by that, but if I handle this adversity good, then that's a good life lesson for Blue. And so then for Blue, I tried to make something good happen from something terrible, and that led to the 1090 podcast and public speaking.
Right. And we see that right now on screen. So what you said, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. This is the premise of your podcast, the 1090 podcast.
Yeah.
So I was just looking at the list of episodes, Mason, and you're up to 117. So every week you interview someone else who's gone through this sort of tragedy.
Yeah, I got the name from my dad. My dad sent me the quote, life's 10% what happens to you, 90% what you're going to do about it. And he sent it to me when I was trying to come up with the name for the podcast. I'm like, wow, like, this is it. Like, what a great way to explain grief, because the pain will never go away. The trauma and the guilt and it's never going to go away. But what I've learned is I can also build happiness and success, even with that as a reality. Being successful isn't getting rid of the bad, it's accepting the bad and using it to help you create something good. But it's never going away. And that's why I love that quote, is that 10% is going to be there the rest of my life. I'm going to hurt the rest of my life, but I can still be happy. And those things coexisting is something that I didn't know before, but I learned that through therapy. Is my therapist is like, Mason, you're going to be miserable the rest of your life. I love my therapist. He's so honest with me, but he's like, you can also be happy, man. And they want you to be happy. But back to the podcast, I felt so alone. You just feel so alone and anger. Like, I was just mad at everyone. Like, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. And the podcast has been so humbling. I mean, listen to our episode today, 117 with Maui. It will break you. And that's what I learned, is I don't have the worst story, or my story is just as bad as a bunch of others. And I'm actually not alone at all. And what I can help is having these people talk about it, because most people, every single one of us, you guys included, we all have something in the closet, something that's not going well, and we don't talk about it enough. And that's just something that we try to promote with 1090 is, listen, you're not going to know what to say, but you got to try. You got to start talking about it, and you're going to mess up and you're going to contradict yourself and it's not going to make sense, but keep talking about it and it'll get better. And as you keep talking about it, you get the joy with the pain. The joy's in the same spot as the pain. So if you want the joy and you want the life lessons that come with grief, you have to lean into it. But if you run away from it, you're just going to get tired from running, and you're not going to grow. You're not going to get stronger. You're just going to exhaust yourself by trying to run from it.
Mason, when you have spoken to many of these individuals who are sharing their stories and being very vulnerable to you, I know that you have said that you realize that your story wasn't, you're not the only one who has gone through tragedy. But is there a part of you as well that feels like you are a beacon of hope for these individuals, for these families, when you have a podcast like this that allows them to come on and feel safe enough to share their stories and to look at the person across the screen or if you're in front of them and say, hey, at least he knows what it feels like to go through such tragedy? Do you feel like you have, instead of just being the negative part of it all, that you've become the positive part and a beacon of hope for them?
Yeah, I do think Beacon of Hope is something that I strive for. But it's weird because I'm not doing great still. And
That's okay.
I spend a lot of days in bed most of the time. It blues at school, and so it's weird because I do think I'm a beacon of hope, and I get a lot of cool messages, and it just feels weird sometimes. Like I don't think I'm doing as good as you guys think I'm doing. Like, all I'm doing is talking about it, but I didn't know this. That's actually a big deal because not a lot of people can or want or even know how to talk about it. And I didn't, it seems so minute, like so simple, but the messages I get are just like, wow, like I got to keep doing this because it's having this impact on other people. So Roger, like you said, definitely a beacon of hope, but don't want to fool people into thinking I have the list of things. This is what you got to do to conquer grief. I have no idea. It hurts like hell. I just know this is what I do know. Connecting with humans, other people. There's no better, stronger, purer, more powerful way than through our pain and that bad stuff and how bad we hurt and our grief. Not even close. Like, if you talk to someone about grief for 10 minutes, you'll do in a year of talking about bullshit and just trying to make each other feel good by pumping rainbow up each other's asses. Like, I don't like, can we just have a real conversation and really feel this and be in the moment? And that's what the podcast has given me is I feel so out of place in the real world. I don't want to talk about what you guys are talking about. It doesn't interest me, but I'll talk about when you lost your dad. I'll talk about when your daughter died. I'll talk about when your brother died. That's stuff that really interests me and makes me feel alive.
So it's almost like therapeutic. It's almost therapeutic in a way. Both of you.
It is therapy. It's recorded therapy, basically. Every 1090 episode, I think it's therapy that we just upload and post after. But that's what when I have people on, that's what they tell me. It's like, this feels like a therapy session. I really needed that. I haven't talked about this since the funeral. Things like that.
Right. So not only do you help people, your guests on your podcast, but countless others who are listening. And I think we've got a fan right here, Christine, who says Mason is absolutely a beacon of hope with his podcast. After 170,
that in?
You want to see it again?
Man, wait, that's so cool. We're getting comments coming in.
Yeah, they've been popping in.
Time.
That's pretty cool, man.
You'll be able to go comment on them. You'll be able to watch these comments on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube, and you'll be able to answer to them later on. After 117 episodes, you help them, but you also help countless people. And what I find amazing is how you're able to do it in such a real way. It's not only with your podcast, but with speaking engagements you do to go to different audiences, very varied, as we were speaking earlier. But you're obviously not putting yourself on a pedestal, and you're just saying what you want to say, and it helps people in the audience. When did you first realize? Like, was there someone who told you speak about it? And I guess the follow-up question that I'll ask right away is why start asking other people about it?
I think my dad was a good example of, he was a therapist his whole life. But honestly, it was the people I lost. If you would have met my wife, Kortni, you'd get it. If you were to meet my brother Race, I think I know my wife would try to help people. Like, if the roles were reversed and I died and she was here, she would not be crying in bed all day. I mean, maybe at the beginning, but she would do something about it. I know that for sure.
Mhm.
I know my brother Ace would, and I know my kids would want me to do something about it. So I think it's more of just connecting with them, what they want me to do. And again, like how what happened happened. And what bugs me with trauma and grief is a lot of people just try to take my pain away by telling me it'll be okay, you'll see him again or whatever. That doesn't help me. Like, don't just try to take my pain away because it hurts really bad. And if you just tell me everything will be okay, that's makes me really confused because I don't feel okay. I don't feel anything close to okay.
Mhm.
But I think being connected with Kortni and Race, I've realized that it's not trying to overcome the pain. It's accepting the pain. And and if you accept the pain, then you're in a better position to use it and have control over it. And you can use it for something good instead of it just crippling you. But I think that'd be my answer to your question is it's Kortni and trying to make her proud and live a life that she would do, I think. And she's just a great example to me for that. So I think it started with her and my dad.
Mason, let's just talk about your podcast now, so that everybody can get a chance to listen to it and to hear the other incredible stories that have happened. When do you have the podcast, or where can anybody find the podcast and to listen to it?
Yeah, so we're on all the major platforms, Spotify, Apple. We also have a YouTube channel. And then I think we have clips on TikTok and Instagram. And we have a website as well.
Mhm.
So we're out there. If you care enough, you'll be able to find us. I think you type in 10, spell out 90 and scroll and we'll pop up somewhere, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I just searched for you and I found
Perfect.
your Instagram account, and I started listening to clips. And Instagram is fun because, well, fun is useful in that sense that it's very quick. You can get really quick clips, and that's how I immediately thought, okay, Roger is very correct. We need to have Mason on. But if we want to delve deeper, we can listen to the 1090 podcast. I'd like to end with this question. It's a question that people who don't know you very well might be wondering about. Let me put you in a larger screen here. You're wearing a Metallica t-shirt. I think that's a Metallica hat, and there's a Metallica poster in the background.
Yeah, I got a problem, man. I'm addicted to Metallica.
Why Metallica, and what's so important about that group for you?
When Kortni was on that, thanks for asking this. When Kortni was on that family vacation, I was actually scrolling through Instagram and I came across this video clip of Metallica. They were on a podcast, maybe like Howard Stern or something. I don't remember it, but they're on a podcast and they played the song Nothing Else Matters, which I've heard before, but then they talked about the song after and like what it meant. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I wanted it to be me and Kortni's song because we just moved to St. George. We're starting a new chapter in our life, and I just loved it. And I'm corny, so like I wanted a song with her. So I texted her like, "Hey, I have a song that I want to be our song, and we'll listen to it when you get back from the family vacation." And she was killed, and so obviously I never got to tell her what the song was. But ever since then, I think I've worn a Metallica shirt or a Metallica hat or a Metallica hoodie almost every day. I think I got about 90 of them in my closet. So yeah, that's kind of why I do it. So it means a lot to me and I love her and I miss her more than anything.
The healing power of music, eh?
Oh, and dude, that I just listened to Metallica in a dark room for months after. Like
Wow.
that's what I did. So yeah, there's a lot of truth to that, I think.
Mason, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here with us, to share your story, to be vulnerable. And I think there's so much that we can take away from what you said. The fact that you're not okay. And people need to understand that you're not okay, but you're doing this to not only help other people, but to as well be able to feel like you can speak and talk about it and express how you're feeling through your podcast, and in hope that you're also helping other people at the same time. I think that was one of the big things that I took away. It's not that you're better now and you're now helping others. You're still hurting. And I thank you for being vulnerable today, for giving us the opportunity, and our listeners. And I think a lot of our listeners here are truly, and if you are still on, please put in the chat how you feel right now about this interview. We thank you so much for taking the time. Please follow Mason Sawyer on all platforms. Please, if you have anybody that you know that needs to talk about something that has happened to them, get in touch with Mason. Have him like be on that podcast, or talk to him about it, and just have that moment. Man, I mean, I'm still feeling it, and I've heard this already 2 weeks ago, and it's still hitting me now. So thank you again, Mason. I truly appreciate it. I don't know, Alex, if you have any last words.
As we've seen in the comments, sometimes just sharing your pain, sharing your grief with someone. It doesn't need to be on a podcast. It doesn't need to be publicly. Just with one person can be very therapeutic and can help. And it can be, I suppose, a first step towards healing. Maybe that pain, well, as you've said, Mason, that pain will never go away, but it can, I guess, attenuate to make place for something else, something more productive. And if you help others along the way, bonus points to you, man. Mason, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thanks, guys. I always appreciate any opportunity I can to talk about it. So thank you very much.
All right, we'll keep in touch.
We'll keep in touch. And as we always say when we leave, thank you for joining us. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you were here with us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you continue to. God, I'm just still stuck. Sorry, this is live, but I hope you continue the conversation wherever you are, and pick up the phone. Pick up the phone right now. If there's anyone that you know, your loved ones, pick up the phone now, as soon as you get off of this here, and tell them you love them. You never know. You never know. As we always say, whether you agree or disagree, you can always find great combos. Take care, everyone.
See you next week.